made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 349 of the Chiro Hustle Podcast. I'm your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Amy Burke. And if you want to understand what it's like to serve with your hands anywhere, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle Podcast, episode 349. Amy Burke coming in from Venice, Italy, which I think is pretty cool. I don't think we've done an interview from Venice. Luke Millette, my co-host, is Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I, James Chester, coming in from Grand Junction, Colorado. And before we get going, I just set some ground rules of what we do it for and why we do it. And we do protect free speech in chiropractic. I think that is absolutely essential. We do support subluxation-based chiropractors. We support innate intelligence and universal intelligence, which if you guys don't know what any of that stuff is, go do a search on your favorite search engine. And we do protect the sacred trust. And I think that that's what makes our show so damn valuable, because not a lot of people even know what that is. And if you need a reminder, just shoot me a message and I'll send you what it means. But without any further, Amy Burke, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
We're really, really happy to have you too. And one of my favorite segments of everything we ever do is the first question. Like, if I could just rest easy at night, just asking the first question and saying, all right, we're done. But I want to get to know you a little bit more and talk to you about the BGI system that you are integrated with, that you help people with. And would you just mind telling us the journey, how you became the chiropractor you are today, what influenced you, and maybe share with our audience your chiropractic story?
I would be delighted to. I want to keep it quick. So I have these hands that are they're my favorite things that I own. They're incredibly sensitive. They're incredibly intuitive. And I found that out when I was 20. And since then, they have truly been my guide. The beautiful thing about having hands like these is that you don't need anything else. That is one of my favorite things about chiropractic, is that you just don't need a lot of stuff. Like, you grab your carry-on bag and you can go serve people anywhere in the world. And it's not about technique. It's not about the instruments. It is about truly listening and connecting with people with the hands. So I found that out when I was 20, and that was 30 some years ago. And they have been my constant companions. And just the journey through chiropractic has been profound. I didn't know what chiropractic was when I started chiropractic college. I went to Life West thinking that I would help people with headaches and back pain, and started going to our Friday seminars and hearing people talking about their chiropractic practices and just being blown away by how vast the world of people being served and lives being changed by chiropractic was, and was just so moved by what was possible. And I feel like that is kind of how I wake up every day, is like, hey, what's going to change for the people I serve today? My biggest mentors have been Sue Brown and Arnaud Bernier, Heidi Keller, and I feel like my chiropractic superpower is just realizing that I am truly in service, and I am here to listen, whether that's with my ears or my hands.
And maybe you can touch upon a little more about what BGI is for people at home who may not know, like me. I've never heard of that. So if you
Excellent.
could just kind of expound on that a little bit more, that'd be great.
Luke, I love expounding on BGI. It's kind of my jam, so thanks. But BGI is Biogeometric Integration, and that is a name that was democratically chosen by the people who were studying with Sue Brown in the early noughts, anyway, around 2000. And biogeometric integration is a way of looking at the body and understanding our innate geometry, and then introducing an adequate and supportive and beautiful thrust of whatever kind or chiropractic input. So we establish continuity in the body, understanding the tensegrity nature of the body, understanding that we are connected from top to bottom through our fascia and our connective tissue. And then as we understand what type of tension and potential is being stored in the body, rather than looking for problems in BGI, we're looking for potential. And when I reframed my chiropractic awareness that I was looking for potential rather than problems, that got me amped like at a completely different level. So no longer was I looking for something that was broken in the person. I was looking for where the potential was stored. And Jim, you talked about your experience on a BGI table where you were emotionally opened in a way that was unexpected. When we look for the potential in people rather than the problem, it's like we're talking to somebody about what's possible rather than where things have gone wrong. And the conversation completely shifts. And the conversation can obviously be through words, but most often it's through the hands. And I noticed that the people on the table just feel heard in a really different and profound way. The things that we see in the office vary from people bursting out into tears, but I mean, that can happen in any office, and everything happens in every office. One of the questions were, what do you bring to chiropractic that is unique? And I feel like through the BGI framework, what I love about it is that it's not a technique. So nobody applies it the same way that anybody else does, because you, Jim, learning the principles of BGI, you're going to bring who you are. You're going to bring your upbringing. You're going to bring your passion. You're going to bring your love. I hope I can say this. You can edit me out later, for pizza and tacos to the table. And you can bring your understanding of the way the high functioning body works. I can bring my very maternal, motherly touch to the table. Somebody else can bring their totally, let's just say, high-performing cycling hands to the table, and that we're each going to access and understand and approach the body in a different way through a filter that is formed by every experience that we've ever had, and allows us to connect with the people on the table in a different way, each of us, and that there's no one right way to do it. And I love that about BGI, and I love that about chiropractic. And right now, it's been so long that I have used BGI as my chiropractic filter that I kind of can't imagine that there's any other way to do it. Not that there's any other way to do it that is not BGI, but there's no other way to do it than just coming to the table and being fully present with who you are as a human being and all the experiences that you've ever had.
And you mentioned a BGI table in there. Is that somehow different from a traditional adjusting table?
No. I just mean like that interaction of like not a restaurant table, but me and my chiropractic table.
Gotcha. What are some of your favorite ways to schedule in new patients and get some excitement and attraction to your office other than the BGI technique?
Well, it just depends on what you are passionate about. So when I was in New York, my commitment was to creating a family practice that served pregnant women and babies. And so what I did was contact all the doulas and midwives in the New York area, which was a fairly long list. And if anyone on this podcast remembers the concept of listservs, it was before Facebook. It's like saying I pulled out a tape recorder. Anyway, listserv. But so now it would be so much easier. You would go to a Facebook group that was basically doulas or maternity care in your area, and just start. I offered them all to come to a morning in my office where I talked about what I did, but more importantly, I said I have a practice that is dedicated to pregnant women and babies, and I would like to connect the people that I serve with you. And so I would like to know what it is that you do that is special. So they each came with the thought that they were going to, and they did. They told me what was different about them, who their ideal client was, so that it was truly an exchange, and each of us got to talk about what it was that we offered. That one morning built my entire practice in New York City, in Manhattan. It was incredible. And I spent $20 going to get hummus and red peppers and sparkling water at the grocery store at 7 a.m. That was it. It was brilliant.
And other than a steady diet of pizza and tacos, what are some other ways that you and your family like to keep healthy?
That's Jim's secret diet. We eat a ton of vegetables. I don't. My family in particular, our huge family decision, which my now 15-year-old daughter would disagree that she was not part of the family discussion. But when she was 4, we moved out of America, and came to Italy. The thought was that we would spend 1 year together as a family, kind of getting to know each other without a babysitter involved. Because we were living in Manhattan, and what that required is that both parents work a tremendous amount of hours. And so as we realized how that was affecting our family, we decided that we wanted to take a year off and just discover what that meant to be a family together. And we never went back. So that 1 year changed into 10 years. We lived in a very rural environment. We spent a lot of time outdoors. We spent a lot of time growing our own food, preparing our own food, hiking and finding wild food. There was a lot of food. It often got wrapped in tacos, or put on pizza, but it wasn't the focus. The focus was the kind of preparation and what it meant to be a family in a place where we had the time and the space to actually connect. And that was a huge decision, and it wasn't easy to leave New York when we were both kind of at the top of our careers, and at the same time, it was incredibly profound and beautiful.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority podcast training. Let's hustle. I love this story. I love the narrative. I love the reality of freedom.
Buy the book. It's coming out soon.
What's the name of the book?
Not there yet. I'll let you know.
Gotcha.
But I am working on it.
Reality of freedom for people, freedom of choice, freedom of where to live, freedom of how to live, freedom of how to raise their families.
Yeah.
I love the theme. I love releasing people with the touch of BGI and allowing people to have the freedom of liberation. And I think that that's a huge theme with what you're talking about is even though that you're at the top of your level, at what regard? At the top of the level, not being present for your family,
Yeah,
at the top of the level to make a bunch of money that pays for things that might not resonate with you. And then what is freedom? Freedom to
absolutely.
take a pause, freedom to explore, freedom to be the in Europe. I think that's brilliant. I think that you chose to go where your North Star was, and it's served you well, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary experience. It's funny. I feel like up until very recently, you would say, "Oh, we live in Italy," and it was like, "Oh, that's so magical." And right now, Italy is, in terms of a chiropractic viewpoint, Italy's in a bit of a dark space. There's been a profound infringement upon freedom of motion, freedom of work, freedom of choice. And it's been a very interesting ride. And just as a small family of three, it's been an interesting, intense navigation of that. And I feel like things are finally getting to a place where I am comfortable saying we don't need to flee in the middle of the night. But there have been some hard moments. It's not been as beautiful as I had hoped in the last few months. But it's okay. The spring is coming.
So I know things have changed and shifted a bit, maybe in the last year or two. But typically, what would be your favorite way to stay connected to your local community?
I just think being present and being out, asking people how they are, asking people about their families, connecting with people. I don't feel like you need to be a superstar. You need to be a human being, and you need to connect with people. And whether that is at your grocery store, knowing the person who's checking your groceries, knowing what their name is, where their kids go to school, whether they play soccer, whether they play baseball, just connecting with people and finding out what is important to somebody. So now I know I'm not going to ask James about his kids or Jim about his kids, but I am going to ask him about the last taco he had. And that's from now into perpetuity, that is going to be our personal joke or connection. And this, like, you have to find out what's important to people and connect with them. And when people realize that you actually care, and when you see them and you say, "Hey, how is your grandmother? She was in the hospital," or how's the bike race that you've been training for? Whatever it is, people go, you pay attention. You matter. I matter to you. And it doesn't need to be a marketing plan. It needs to be a human connection plan.
I would love to see Jim enter a bike race. Do you ever do like community outreach type programs or lunch and learns, dinner with a doc, scheduling events? You set up any things like that?
Nope.
So how do you see chiropractic changing and evolving over the next 20 years or so?
So what I realize is that there are a bunch of different chiropractics in the world. And I think that it is each of our individual responsibilities to make sure that the one that we believe in the most continues to grow. I was talking to Mark Hudson about a year ago, and he said, the reality is in the world, there's probably 70% of people in chiropractic who are completely dedicated to a mechanistic model. And then there's about 20% of people who are dedicated to a vitalistic model. And then there's about 10% who just don't care enough to have an opinion about it. And when I heard those numbers, it was like, wow. So what do we do about that? And we need to participate in podcasts. We need to talk to people. We need to write books. We need to make sure that students who are in school find out that there is a different model of chiropractic than what they're being taught in school. And sitting and talking to Jerry Clum when I was getting ready to graduate from Life West, I realized the job and responsibility of being a chiropractic administrator at a college that requires accreditation. It's such, the politics of chiropractic and the practice of chiropractic are so different. So we all need to dive into our chiropractic practice and then make sure that the people who are getting served at our office are talking to their families, their friends, their soccer teams, their dance classes, and talking about why they love going to the chiropractor, whatever that is. And I don't think that it's one thing. I don't think that it's one way. But that broadens the picture of chiropractic. And if we each start talking in a public way about what happened in our office this week, like what's one amazing thing that happened in our office, on social media, the more people that read that, they're like, oh, your kid has earaches. You know what I read on Facebook is that this mother was talking about taking her kid to the chiropractor, or your grandma has IBS. And again, we have to be really careful with our language, that we're not curing, we're not fixing, but to offer the opportunity that chiropractic is not solely exclusively about back pain. But chiropractic is about restoring the connection between man the physical and man the spiritual. And however that manifests on the table, the chiropractic table, not the BGI table.
I love this. I love this information you're sharing. And sometimes I call the attachment to the table the golden handcuffs, but sometimes it's the servitude that surrounds that. And it is connecting and telling the story and being able to become culturally significant within your community, and having the cultural conversation around not screaming from the rooftops, but you remember the song, I Heard It Through the Grapevine? And that's what we need to bring back to chiropractic, is we need people to talk about chiropractic on the good days and the bad days, on the days that are the best days and the days that are the worst days. And we need people to, obviously, if I have an issue going on with the back or the neck or the extremities, I'm like, I probably should go see Dr. Morrison and get checked out and see if something's out, see if I'm subluxated. But most people don't think on that level. So it's important for them to say, yeah, my little baby is dealing with colic, and I took my my newborn to see my chiropractor and it cleared up. Or like you said, somebody might be dealing with a digestive problem and they don't realize that the brainstem goes through the spinal canal that has the vertebrae that controls the organs, the nervous system, the immune system. And once those things are getting compressed and out of alignment, it has a downstream effect on performance and adaptability and feelings. Feelings is one of those things that happens that we either feel good or bad, and people relate their health based on that. A lot of times that's why they'll go see somebody to take a look at them. Like something doesn't feel good, and usually
Absolutely.
it doesn't feel good. Usually it doesn't feel good for a long time. And they're like, who can help put the fire out?
That's right. And I feel like in the world of vitalistic chiropractic, there's such an aversion towards talking about symptomatology. But I always say to people, particularly in my seminars with my students, symptoms are a motivating factor for people. Don't eliminate the importance of that. Celebrate that. You're feeling like crap. Awesome. You knew that you needed to get help. Here I am. Beautiful. That is, don't minimize the importance of the symptomatology. Don't make it the only reason that they're coming in, but don't take it away from them. They are, because of that symptom, they're taking time out of their day. They're taking time out of their schedule from work. They're taking money out of their pocket, and they're coming to see you. It's a huge honor and a gift that they are there in your practice. So make sure that they know that.
Now, I know you mentioned a few people earlier at the beginning of the show, but maybe you could take a deeper dive into some of the people in your life that have inspired you to be who you are today. They don't have to be chiropractors specifically. They could be people from history, philosophers, artists, authors,
Family.
family.
Okay, I'm feeling the pressure. I've got 6 minutes.
Let's go.
So yeah. Okay. So, well, Sue Brown was my chiropractic mentor. And when I was in chiropractic college, I truly believed that I could graduate from chiropractic college, a fairly vitalistic chiropractic college, and never talk about the word subluxation because I was so frustrated by the concept of subluxation, the way it was described to me. It felt like it was a very mechanistic topic and that it was, it was truly focused on malfunction. And I was like, I don't want to dedicate the rest of my life to fixing problems. And so if we're talking about a vitalistic model where we're not there to fix anything, I don't want to fix subluxations. And Sue Brown was the first person that talked to me about subluxation as being something other than a problem, but rather being potential. So a subluxation is not a problem. It is not a failure of innate. It is a mechanism of innate that protects the information that is stored in the system when the system is unable to fully integrate any type of experience. And what that creates is potential. And that's potential is stored in our system. And so me as the chiropractor, instead of going to work to the office to fix people's problems, I am going to the office to release their stored potential. And for me, it was so monumental. And the concept of subluxation is being part of our evolution rather than a failure in terms of innate not being able to withstand whatever type of trauma or experience that it had. And so for me, that was huge. That changed my chiropractic perspective. Arnaud Bernier changed my dedication to my craft. He was like, if you are going to be a chiropractor, you need to be an amazing chiropractor. What we do is change people's lives. You can't go in and half-ass it. Be brilliant, be excellent, be dedicated to the adjustment, whatever that looks like to you, but be great at it. Train. And so he brought in this concept of like just honing your skill, honing your craft, and becoming a master. Marianne Williamson is one of my favorite authors and philosophers and historians, and became a politician a few years ago. Not, I think, because she really wanted to be a politician, but because she wanted to change the dialogue in America. My grandmother, who taught me about buying socks that don't match, she said, don't ever buy like printed socks. And if you must, Amy, buy socks with designs on them, buy 2 pairs of the same socks so that when you lose one, which you will invariably lose one, or one gets a hole in it, you still have 2 pairs of socks. Anything else you need to know?
Well, go ahead.
Covered a lot of ground there.
No, that was good. That's a good list of people who's influenced you. And we're getting towards the end of our time together, but we do have one last question. I know every chiropractic adjustment is a miracle, but typically when people say miracle story, people usually have a particular story that jumps out in their mind. And do you happen to have a miracle story you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, I kind of want to go back to Jim and talk about what happened to him on the table with Carrie in Sedona. I feel like everyone, as you say, every single person has a miracle story in chiropractic. I mean, every single day there's a miracle story. And truly, to me, looking at a miracle is looking at somebody who is living their life differently as a result of the care that they received in my office compared to how they were before. And so that miracle can be something as simple as I am finally able to get a good night's sleep versus my baby has put on weight where my baby wasn't able to eat properly, or I was able to walk up a flight of stairs and see my bedridden sister-in-law. Like, to me, the miracle is completely based on that person's experience and what has not been able to manifest for them. So, but let's ask James what his experience was on the table.
Well, I'll just wrap things up for you. The world, I think your perspective is spot on. We need to stop looking for the problems, and we need to start looking for what's right about things. And I think that if there's anything that I would attribute to you after this interview is you're the master of the stop doing list rather than the to-do list. Mm-hmm. And you're looking for the curiosity into the solution rather than the problem. And I believe that you can go look at a book called Power versus Force. And that's the difference between the tonal approach to chiropractic that redesigns the human element rather than puts a force in or takes something away. It's how can you rewire somebody through their human design, which I think is really important. And most people are so ill prepared to understand that or to be able to facilitate that. And it has to resonate at a different frequency. So when you get a BGI adjustment, I'll just call it that because I don't know what else to call it. It
is an adjustment. Absolutely.
You release somebody's human potential. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it retraces somebody back to old wounds inside of them. And there's a Native American quote that I really love is, deep in the belly of the wound is the gift. And when you're able to have somebody else help liberate you through care, it changes how you adapt. It changes how you think, and brings you back to a place of freedom. And I think that that's really what I experienced. And I really believe that the more people that wanted to have a clearer future, they would find themselves a massive group of healers that they would surround themselves with. And I've just happened to do that with the chiropractic community.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite sports ideas is you'll never walk alone. And that's from a European football club. I believe it's Liverpool. And I believe that's what I've been able to achieve with chiropractic is I'll never walk alone. And I think that whether it's that one adjustment or whether it's the adjustment I go get here in 18 minutes, it liberates me and keeps me healthy. So that's to tie everything up at the end of the conversation is with your hands, you can serve anywhere and release someone's potential. And I think that you're proving that and you're doing that. And I think BJ Palmer said this the best, don't let the bastards keep you down. So I hope that the situation over there turns for the better, or you liberate yourself to where you're supposed to be next.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Dr. Amy, we have reached the end of our time together today, but why don't you send our listeners off with some websites they can check out if they're interested in you or BGI or anything else you're involved in?
Absolutely. So my personal website is bgieuropeseminars.com. If you are in the States and you want to attend a seminar in the States, it's bgihq.com. BGI Europe Seminars is on Instagram. There's some periods, bgi.europe.seminars at Instagram. We have, and then I'm Amy Burke Chiro on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being our guest today.
It's my pleasure.
We want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon or morning or evening
over there
night.
In Venice. It's bedtime.
Well, it's time to go to bed. All right. Say goodnight, Jim.
Good night. Thanks for being our guest today, and look forward to the next opportunity to work with you.
My pleasure.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Ciao.
Bye for now.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.